Welcome to another episode of Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where we educate and inspire the community in the areas of a healthy living and quality lifestyle. Today, for our first guest, we have Mark Corazzo, business consultant and coach, and continuing the series on positive psychology, he's talking to us today about engagement. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Linda.
And what do you mean by engagement?
Well, by engagement, Linda, I mean those sort of activities for which our concentration is totally immersed on a moment-by-moment basis. So whilst we're doing it, we actually feel that time has stopped. Now, they're generally categorised by things for which we have the necessary skills to complete the task, although there is an element of challenge and concentration required. So that's basically what I mean by engagement.
And how would we incorporate that into our daily lives then?
Well, the thing about engagement is that it's more about the process of what we're doing rather than the end result. And there are a lot of things that we do on a daily basis. They can be even routine or mundane tasks for which, if we're clever and think in advance, we can try and do it more efficiently. We can do it in a way where we don't cut corners, but we actually think about what we're doing, and we can actually increase the goal that we're hoping to get at the end of it. So there are ways in which we can increase engagement, but another good method is simply to do things which interest us or excite us. That's an easier way. The thing about engagement, Linda, is unlike positive emotions where we actually experience something, with engagement we normally don't experience any positive emotions or emotions at all, except perhaps some people who get into such a highly flow state they've told us that they experience ecstasy. But for most of us, it's a time of the day where we don't experience any emotions at all.
And Mark, what sort of activities would give us engagement or flow?
A numerous amount, Linda. I mean, the obvious place to start from is work, which can obviously give rise to engagement if we're concentrating on something and it's something for which we are slightly challenged. But lots of activities could provide it. It could be dancing, you could find engagement while you're cooking, you could find engagement whilst you're reading a good book. It's those moments of the day where time stops. And I know people who've even found engagement whilst they're talking to a good friend, having a good, open, searching conversation. So there's many activities in our everyday life that can give rise to engagement.
And what about in the workplace?
Workplace, as I say, it's a classic opportunity for people to get engaged, and I think it's more a case there about making sure that we keep lifting our goals as to what we want to get out of activities, trying to do things better, and not thinking so much of the end state, but really becoming immersed on a moment-by-moment basis in the process of what we're doing.
And so then would that give us more like a sense of well-being or happiness?
Well, definitely.
Along the way?
Definitely the research tends to suggest that people are engaged. Whilst they may not feel positive emotions at the time, it is one of those important elements or pillars of our life, together with other things that we need for overall well-being and happiness. And the other thing to consider about engagement is that it's normally associated with something for which has meaning in our life. We can think of an activity as mundane, but when we look at it as to what it's contributing to our life, it normally has some contribution to meaning or some contribution to social benefit. Also, I like to consider that engagement often, the hobbies that we do or the work that we do often is the catalyst from some of our richest and most rewarding personal relationships. And as we've said here before, relationships are so critically important to well-being in life, Linda. And of course, in the workplace, we've got good evidence that it really benefits the employer to have engaged staff. They're proven to be most productive and they're proven to be less absent so far as sick days. So there's a real incentive, of course, on the other side for the leader and the employer to have engaged staff, Linda.
And would you say then that being engaged or in flow, is that the equivalent of being, people, you've talked about meditation before, can that you can bring that into anything that you're doing?
I suppose there is a connection there, Linda, because one of the things about engagement is because our mind is so intensely occupied by what we're doing, we do not have the mental capacity to think of negatives in our life. And one of the great benefits of meditation is we learn to still our mind. For our mind to stop, we have such busy lives these days, there's so much going on, we want to decrease the chatter. And like meditation, engagement, particularly if it's associated with good, constant breathing, can give us those same qualities. Leisure activities are obviously a very important part of life. Personally, I'm a big advocate for genuine rest and renewal. I think that's really critical for people to get the best performance out of themselves on a regular basis. Curiously though, we actually find that they're more likely to get engagement when they're at work. So despite what people think, they have more moments of genuine engagement at work than they do sometimes in their leisure time. In regard to leisure, Linda, we certainly need our rest and renewal to get high levels of performance. So we should pick activities in our leisure though that give us engagement, for which we have to concentrate. They say when we watch television that we don't always get the level of engagement that we think we do. I think on only about 7 to 8% of occasions that we watch TV we're engaged. So I think the challenge is when you do those activities to find things which you gather information from that is interesting to you, but which you have to concentrate on. That's how we can lift our engagement during leisure times.
And what about some hints or tips for our viewers about how to bring more engagement? Would you have any top tips?
Look, I think try and find something that you do every day, even if it's something that you think is fairly mundane or routine. It may be cooking, it may even be washing up, and try and put a little bit more process into that. Try and do it in a little bit better fashion. Don't think so much of getting it out of the way, but of the fact that you are concentrating in every moment. And I think also with engagement, it's very important to be present, to be in the moment, to be well aware of what's happening to you from time to time.
Thank you, Mark. And for more on Mark Corazzo and engagement and positive psychology, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And if you have any comments, queries or requests, then you can also contact us through our website and leave a message. And after the break, we'll be back with another viewer's request, Heidi Solomon talking about psychosomatic therapy. Welcome back, and we have Heidi Solomon next, who's a psychosomatic therapist. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you.
So firstly, can you lead in by telling us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So I used to be a biomedical engineer, so I have a medical background, and all of a sudden life happens, and then I wake up one day with MS. So I had multiple sclerosis for a long time, and I was totally incapacitated. I was homebound for 5 years. I was not talking, not walking, not able to control my bladder. So I was wearing adult diapers, and I couldn't eat solids as well. And I was really sick for years. And just one day, a random person just said to me, why did you choose MS? So a lady just came to me and she asked me that question while I was in hospital getting my fix. So every time I had an attack, I went to hospital and I sat there and I was having an IV for 4 or 5 days and of steroids. And then she just asked me that question, why did you choose MS? And that question led me to, answering that question led me to, well, if I had chosen MS, then can I unchoose it? And that was the whole journey. And this is where I ended up with psychosomatics and everything else I'm doing. So it opened the gateway for me to understand that we are mind, body and soul. And then when the 3 components aren't in harmony for any kind of reason, then we actually sit in disease, disharmony. And autoimmune is the most common one.
So is then multiple sclerosis an autoimmune
It's a
disease?
form of yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right. So what then, what did you discover on that pathway?
So when I found out that mind, body, and soul connection there is something wrong there, so I went and I started looking for avenues where I can get things back in harmony and get my mindset right again. And so I went and I found psychosomatic therapy and coaching. And then after, getting over MS, getting over the symptoms, stopping my medication altogether, I went and I started psychosomatic therapy myself and coaching. So that's what I do now. So this is why I do psychosomatics.
Oh, that's a great combination, isn't it? You can have the communication as well as the body communication incorporated into it.
That's so true, because psychosomatic therapy is a journey of the person from the outside in, and then we say your issues are in your tissues. So this is where it comes from the inside out, and this is where coaching comes in place.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What would some of the symptoms that you've seen come up for people while you're working?
A lot of people present their issues, as I said, in their tissues. So, for example, something like, cancers. Cancers are there for a reason that people aren't forgiving and aren't letting go of some issues, and therefore they're holding on, and then therefore they have cancers. This is an example. Another example would be desensitized tissues, what we call fat. People build fat deposits in specific places, specific spots, and it's there for protection. So, this is why we tend to hold this fat in these places. So this is an example of some different things that I've seen.
Would you have any examples of other maybe diseases in the body that present to you during, in your discovery with other people?
So I would say anything that is autoimmune, like asthma, eczema, psoriasis. So any of that is totally reversible, and people, after a long journey of having history of asthma, eczema, and hay fever and all of that, they let go of the reason why they were holding on to that, and then they become better in every possible way. So the disease cure comes as a bonus. So the people that actually seek psychosomatic therapy, they seek that to get harmony in terms of everything in life, and then they get free of their disease as a bonus. The one thing I tell a lot of people is that they need to listen to their bodies. Everybody needs to listen to what their body is telling them, and then to understand what's it telling them and what is it that they need to do to be able to bring back harmony to their bodies and minds and souls. It's a journey, and we're all in this together. So we need to be helping each other.
So it's like the balance in life that we're all seeking, isn't it?
Balance.
That balance of of things presenting themselves really
Totally.
to us.
Yes.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So just to finish, what would be your absolute top tip for our viewers?
The number one piece of advice, I give that to myself and to everybody I know, is watch the results you're having in your life in any area. Relationships, business, money, everything, abundance, everything. Watch the results that you're having in all your areas in your life. If there is an area where you're not experiencing 100% the results that you'd love to see, then you need to bring back balance and harmony to that area, and then you will get the results that you want.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's wonderful. And for more information on Heidi and psychosomatic therapy, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. After the break, we'll have George Chinchillas with another viewer's request, shifting out of depression. Welcome back, and next we have George Chinchillas, somatic psychotherapist, and he's back with this week to talk about shifting out of depression. Welcome back, George, again.
Thanks for having me again. Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah. So this week we're going to be talking about depression, which is the opposite of anxiety. So last week I talked about the hyper state, the hyper arousal, and this week is the hypo arousal. It's when you lock yourself right down. There's no energy, you feel trapped, and then people feel like, oh, I'm depressed, and you just disappear into your body. So it's the opposite of being out there, out of your body, anxious, and can't calm down. With depression, it's total opposite. If you're feeling depressed and down, it means there's not enough movement. You've got to get more movement, you've got to get more active, and you've got to get that fight response out. So you need dumbbells are good. Going to the gym is the bench press is great. To just really push out all the suppression that somehow you've created in your life. Some event, something has happened in your life, or a combination of events that have just closed you in, and you see no way out, and you're just locked in. And so people, that's the word depression, where things are depressed and really caved in. Of course, there's always a way out, you just haven't found it. So how do you do it? Get out there, fight more. Boxing's good at the gym. Connect with people is important because they'll break you out of it as well. Connection's huge with depression because normally you feel alone and like there's no one to talk to, you don't feel like you can go anywhere. TV's not going to help much, well it's helping now I guess watching this, but normally your TV is not a two-way thing, so you really want connection with people. You find people you can connect with, get out, socialise, move, and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel is what most depressed people will say. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're locked in because the fight response, they just haven't been able to push out all this stuff that's come at you. And again, triggers from the environment that bring up childhood experiences, bring up a trauma, and then you feel trapped and you can't break out. Something happened, we don't have to know what. If it's really bad, it can be a suppression of a lot of pain and grief. If you don't release, especially for men, if we don't cry, the depression builds and builds and builds to the point where it feels like, oh, the pain is so great of that grief and that sadness and the hurt that I'd rather kill myself rather than feel it. So just know it's all it is. It's just pain you can't express. Find someone you can ring and talk who will listen to it, or find a therapist, or get it out in the gym.
You mentioned the gym a couple of times, and does resistance training work as well as that, or something like bashing a pillow, or you hear people
that's great
talking
too.
about? Is that sort of
bashing a pillow is
way?
great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it reminded me. That's very good. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you don't have to go to the gym. You can just go to the bedroom, stack up some pillows, and just hit and put sound to it. Really, when you know no one around is going to hear it, really put some sound to that hurt that's there. And as that hurt comes out, and you let yourself cry, if there's the need to cry, that will relieve it. And then normally what will be under that is anger. Anger for the person or the thing that created that suppression and just boxed you in to the point where you just had no option. The other one it's important to do is to breathe in your chest. I talked about last time about breathing in your belly for anxiety because it's too much chest breathing. Depression's the opposite. It's too much belly breathing. You're two in your belly and there's nothing in the chest. It's literally the chest. When I'm looking at people who are depressed, you'll see it. You'll have the shoulders hunched over, the concave chest, and people aren't even breathing in their chest. So just breathing in your chest more makes a big difference. Deep chest, forget your belly. If you're depressed, breathe deeply in your chest and put sound to it, and sure enough, it'll be some pain, and then anger underneath that. And as you express that emotion, the energy flows again, you come alive again. It won't hurt as much, so the suicidal tendencies drop off, and then there's more light at the end of the tunnel again. Very powerful. Another good one to use more of your chest is to sing. Sing in the car, out loud. I'll do it often if I'm feeling a bit flat in my chest. take some breaths, get in the car, put on music loud and just sing to your favourite music. And very healing, and just belt it out, because that'll release anger as well, because when you're angry, you're normally loud, the voice is loud. People who are depressed are normally very softly spoken. Yeah, things are fine today, I'm all is good. It's very softly spoken. You've got to get that voice up, and to do that, breathe in your chest, sing in the car, go into the bush or whatever and yell and scream if you have to. Very healthy, and sure, there'll be tears maybe with that, maybe pain or grief, but they both need to be released, and very important. You can't, and you won't, and naturally, if people say just cheer up, that's not going to help. That doesn't help. Doesn't help a depressed person to tell them to cheer up. That's the worst thing you can say. There's so much pain there, so much grief. You want to be able to express that first, and someone needs to be there with you to let you express it, and someone will be neutral. And if it's too deep, that's when you go see a therapist, because your friends can't handle the depth of it, because it's going to trigger them, and then they feel the weight of their stuff coming up. So it's best to see a therapist then if it's really strong, or if it's suicidal, or just deep grief where there's so much pain, and it turns into fibromyalgia, comes from that. A lot of autoimmune systems, a lot of pain in the body, muscular pain. It turns into disease if you don't deal with it. So. And cancer's a big one. That we're linking that to people being too nice. If you look at the characteristic of someone who gets cancer, too nice. You've got to get angry, you've got to fight and get out there and just face on whatever that thing was that depressed you, even if you don't know what it is. Something's there, again, mostly from childhood probably. You've got to hit it, fight it, get sound out, swear if you have to, if there's no one around. And then the energy flows again, and you're breathing back in your chest. Shoulders can then drop again, chest can come out again, and your posture will improve, and away you go. So very important. Singing is just brilliant. I take singing lessons frequently, and it's a great personal growth thing to do, just to get that voice out. So if you want joy, if you want to cheer up, you actually have to feel your pain. And if we look at the emotional states, the duality of emotions, there's three basic emotions. The way I've been trained over the years is the ones that we block is fear, anger, and pain. So if you want to feel joy, you have to feel your pain. They're the opposite side of the same coin. Unless you feel your sadness and your pain, you're not going to feel happy. So just know that. If you want peace in your head, peace of mind, to feel safe in the world, you have to express the fear. You can't go around trying to make yourself feel safe when all this fear's there. You have to accept it, and we talked about that at length last time. So
fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, George. Yeah. Thank you. And George will be back with us again, and next time he's talking about spirituality and being present. And for more on George and shifting out of depression, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And for now, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you back next week.